I'm going to be showing you guys how to do an edit, basically from start to finish. I did a photo shoot for a girl who was competing in Miss New Jersey. I did that last week, and we're going to be going over kind of my editing process for that. And if you guys are interested in like the lighting setup, I have that on my blog. You can go to this link right up here, and yeah, so this is just the lighting setup. Pretty much 3 lights, 5-foot octabox, about three or 4 feet away from her, and then I had a flat just below her to reflect light back into her and soften the shadows. And then I also had 2 strip boxes behind her with grids on them. So that's the lighting setup I used. So let's get into the editing. So here's my image, my raw image from my camera. So the first thing I'm going to do is just duplicate this layer. Okay, so let's see, I think I'm going to start off with some color correction. So I can tell this photo is it's more on the orange side. I really don't want it to be that orange, so I want to kind of reduce that. So the first thing I'm going to do is just create a new group, and then I'm going to add 2 blank layers to that. And the first layer, I'm just going to name this highlights, and the second layer, name that shadows. Okay, so on my highlights layer, I'm going to go to my image, just hit B to go to my brush, and I'm just going to select a highlight area in my image. So right there is good. So I can see the color selected over here. I'm going to do Alt Delete and then Control I. So I'm just grabbing the color and then inverting to the opposite color. Okay, and then I'm going to change my blend mode to color. And then I'm going to reduce my opacity. And I find that anywhere between about 8 and 15% is kind of where I want to be. So I'm going to go with 12%. I like that. And then I'm going to turn off my highlights and then go to my shadow. And I'm going to do the same thing, select a shadow area. Alt Delete, Control I, and then change the blend mode to color. And then I'll just reduce this down to let's go to 10. Okay, so I'm going to turn on my highlights. I'm going to double click on my highlights, and then I only want my effect to stay on the highlight portion of the image. So what I need to do is I need to clip my shadows. So I'm going to come down here, and I'm basically just clipping my shadows right now. And then I'm going to take the slider and I'm going to split it, and then just drag this towards the middle just to smooth it out, and then I just hit OK. And you see the effect was only applied to the highlight portion of the image. So then I'm going to go to my shadows, and I'm going to do the same thing. This time I'm going to clip the highlights because we only want the shadow showing. So bring this down and then split it. And OK. And then I can turn that back on. And then I can minimize this group. I'll just call this tones. And what you can do is you can actually change the opacity of this, and it'll affect both of them at the same time. So I'm going to go around 76. I like that. Okay, so next thing I will do is start working on the skin. So I'm going to create a new layer. It's going to be my skin layer. And I'm going to zoom in here. And I'm going to switch to my spot healing brush tool. And there's not too much work to do on here because I actually had a makeup artist, come in and do the makeup for this. So, which makes my job a lot easier. Okay, and I will often just zoom out. If I've been working like close up, I'll zoom out every once in a while just to kind of get an overall feel of what's happening with my editing. If I'm zoomed in all the way, I can't, I'm only focused on one area. So when you pull back and zoom out, you get a broader sense of the entire image rather than just the one focused area. So, and these bigger areas right here, I'm gonna actually use the patch tool for that. I don't think the spot healing brush does a good job of fixing big areas like that. So I'll just switch to the patch tool. But for now, I'm just gonna work on just getting the small things. Okay, I'm going to switch to my patch tool now. So I can't use the patch tool on a blank layer. You have to actually use it on a layer that has content on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create just a new layer, and I'm going to hit Command Alt Shift E, which is going to give me a stamp layer. Okay, so now I can get in there and start working on these bigger areas. Okay, so this is starting to look a little better. There's still just a couple more spots where I need Okay, so I'm pretty happy with what we have so far. You can see after if we turn off the patch and skin layer. So this is before, and then with the spot healing brush, and then with the patch tool. So I got most of the areas that I wanted to. Um, the next thing I'm gonna work on is gonna be her eyes. So actually, before I do that, I'm gonna create a new layer, stamp it. So Command Alt Shift E. Okay, so I have this one Photoshop action which kind of helps reduce kind of shiny skin where there's like some texture. Like you can see on her cheeks here and under her eyes, it's kind of highlights that are kind of a little textury. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce that now using this Photoshop action. And it's from Vibrant Shot. And there's two different types of it. There's a 8-bit and 16-bit, and I'm working in 16-bit right now, so I'm going to use that one. So I'm going to click on it, I'm going to run this. Okay, so you'll get this dialog window that pops up, and you just want to change your focus to an area where you have the issue. So, and usually I'll just work with gonna work with the radius first, and then I'm just gonna bring this up until I start seeing it like kind of like sharpen up. So just keep going. So in the point where this starts getting sharp, okay, so I'm gonna go with 13 and 2, and the idea is just to get the areas where you want to reduce to get those like kind of sharp looking. You can kind of see here it looks sharper, here it looks sharper, up on the forehead it looks a little bit sharper. I'm just gonna hit OK. Okay, so you'll end up with a layer mask right here, and what you're going to do is you're going to switch to your brush, and you're going to switch to your white, and that makes this a little bigger. I'm just going to work with opacity, we'll go 10%, and I'm just going to zoom in, and you're just going to paint over the areas where you want to kind of reduce the that sharpness effect. Okay, so if I turn this off, you'll see the effect. So next thing I'm going to do is work on the eyes. So I'm going to create a new layer. And now I'm going to zoom in so I can see both of them. Okay, now I want to switch to my brush, and I want to be on black and white. So first I'm going to go to my white brush, and I'm going to be using an opacity of 100 and a flow of 2%. And I'm going to change my blending mode to overlay. So basically I'm just going to be painting in the eye, and it's going to paint white where I want to brighten the eye up. So zoom out, so turn this off, turn it back on. You can see the huge difference so far. So I'm going to zoom back in, and then I'm going to switch to my black. And then I'm going to darken the outside of the eye. And this is just going to give a little more contrast and just make the eye pop a little bit. And then I'm just going to make my brush a little bit bigger, and I'm just going to go kind of on the inside of that line I just did, just so there's like a kind of a gradual transition between those two areas. And then I'll do the same thing to the other eye. Okay, so that's the outcome. So I'm probably just going to reduce the opacity just a little bit, because that's kind of too much. I just want to just bring that down just a little bit. So right there, 81%. Okay. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to work on doing some contouring with her face. And what's great about using a makeup artist is she did a lot of that already, and I'm just going to add a slight enhancement to it. So I'm going to create a new group. I'll call this my shadows. I like to work with my shadows first. And I'm going to add, let's see, 1, 2, I'm going to add 3 layers here. So I'm going to call the first one my cheeks, second one is nose, and third one will be forehead. Okay, so I'm going to go to my cheeks layer. I'm going to go to my brush tool, select a highlight area, or a shadow area down here. And I'm going to change I'm just going to put normal for now. And then I'm going to zoom in a little bit. And I want to add kind of a line here. So I want to add a line here and then here. So you don't want those to be as thick though. I'm going to actually make that a little bit smaller. So we got one here. And you might have to redo this a few times to get it how you want. So just like that, and then we got this one. Coming here. Okay. So that's good. And then I'm going to change my blend mode to multiply. And then I'm going to go to my filter, my blur, Gaussian blur. And I'm going to adjust this. So the further up you go, the more spread out it's going to get. So you don't want to go too far, you don't want to go too small. You I like to get to an area of where I want the effect to kind of take place, and then I'm going to actually reduce the opacity to reduce it even more. So I think 60, maybe around, yeah, 70. I think 70 is good. And then I come to my opacity, and I'm just going to reduce this. Just zoom out here. So I'm going to reduce my opacity. Like if you leave it at 100%, that looks terrible. So I'm going to come down, reduce this. So you just want this to be it's very subtle. So I'm going to leave it at 32. Okay, so that's it without, and then with it. So it just adds a little more dimension, kind of builds shape within the face. So the next one is going to be the nose. And then I'm going to do the same thing, just use the same color. This is going to be actually a lot smaller than this. And I'm just going to run it right down here. And I'm just going to come, same thing. And change to multiply. Filter, add a Gaussian blur. So I'm going to go 28 here. And then I'm going to reduce my opacity. Okay, so I'm going to go with 17%, just very, very, very slightly. So I'm going to go with 17%. You just want this to be extremely subtle. So you can see that's without, and then with. And then we'll go to our cheeks. Actually, it looks like I switched these two. And then for the forehead, I'm just going to do just slightly around the edge. So we got one kind of just goes here, and then kind of just around here, like that. And then change to multiply. Filter, blur, Gaussian blur. Okay, so we have our shadows on, so if I just take this off and then take it on, you can already see it just adds a little depth to the image. So next thing, I'm going to add a highlights group, and I'm going to add, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going to have our cheeks, our chin, nose, and then forehead. So I'm going to start with my cheeks, and this time you're just going to be using the white brush. So I'm going to switch back to white, zoom in here a little bit, and I'm just going to paint like this. Okay, and then I'm going to change this to, instead of multiply, we're going to use soft light. And then filter, blur, Gaussian blur. And again, the first thing I want to do is I just kind of want to get the spreading correct. So I'm just going to work that up. So 67. And then I'm going to reduce my opacity. Okay, so and then also what I'm going to do with this one, because the spread was kind of wide on that, so I'm going to create a mask, and I'm going to switch to my black brush, opacity of 10, and I'm just going to kind of go over areas where it might have kind of bled into. Okay, and then now we're going to work on the chin. Go to our brush, white. So I like that so far. So you can see it kind of just adds a little pop to the image. I forgot to do this part, so I'm going to go to here, so create a new layer. Okay, so let's see, the next thing I want to do is apply portraiture, which is actually an external plugin you can get for Photoshop, which I use all the time, and it gives you like that kind of that airbrush look. So I'm not really going for like that super airbrush look, but I just want to smooth the skin out just a little bit. Okay, so here's my original, and then this is my airbrushed image. So I think the settings are saved from the last image I did. So I'm just going to apply this, hit OK. And that's way too much for me, so I'm just going to reduce the opacity on it. So I think I'm going to go with 45. I like that. Okay. So I'm actually going to create a layer mask, and because a lot of times this will smooth out areas that you don't want to get smooth out, so like the eyes. So I'm just going to create a mask, and I'm just going to take out the effect on the eyes. And then I'll just switch back to white, and then I'll just go and kind of just go towards the edge here and just paint in anything that I might have taken out. Okay, so I'd really like that. So I will add a little bit of sharpening to my eyes. So I'm going to create a new layer, stamp it, and I will go to my sharpen and just add a little bit of sharpening to my eyes, the eyelids, eyelashes. And just a little bit on my lips. Okay, so that's pretty much done. There's only just one small thing, and that's, I noticed there's like a slight, guess I missed one thing, there's a slight dark spot here and highlight there. So I want to kind of reduce that. Go to layer, new layer, and I'm just going to create an overlay and then fill with 50% gray and hit OK. And I'll just duplicate this. So we'll call this dodge, and this one burn. Okay, so I'm gonna go to my black brush. I'm gonna go to opacity, go to 100, and then flow 1%. And I'm just gonna darken this up just a little bit. And then for my dodge, just go to my white and lighten this up just a little bit. See, I might have gone a little bit too far. So my burn, I'm just going to bring that opacity down just a little bit. And then for my dodge, I'm going to bring that down. So right there. There's still a little bit there, so I'm going to go back to my burn. Okay, and that's pretty much it. Then also there's just a slight bit over here. Okay, and that should be it. So let's go back to the original image. So that's my original image, and then am I finished?